Can you believe we are over halfway through 2024? And while I don't really like to be thinking about the holiday season coming up, especially not the gifts I'm going to give or honestly the money I'm going to be spending, it is a good time to be thinking about what we are doing for our customers to help them spend their money with us. Very important thing to be thinking about right now as opposed to in October or, God forbid, in November of this year. We're also going to talk about some really critical security problems that have happened out in the wild here. You're probably aware of one of them. We're still going to talk about it as well. Let's dive in. Actually, before we do, if you want these type of conversations directly delivered to your inbox, well, you can sign up for that here, delivered every other Thursday at noon Eastern time, straight into your inbox. I think you will enjoy these, find them valuable. And if you don't, please unsubscribe. Without further ado, let's dive in. I'm Joseph, president here at SwiftOtter, and I'm super excited to bring this information to you to help you sell more, to be more productive as an e-commerce merchant. Let's dive in and look at some of these unfortunate security incidents that have happened. In fact, we have 3 of them we are going to talk about today. Number 1 being probably the most impactful, unfortunately, of all 3, and that is Comic Sting. Comic Sting was kind of introduced into the wild by Adobe back about, 2 months ago. Now, they didn't introduce it. They, by fixing it, alerted the world of it, and of course, all the bad actors go out there and try to reverse engineer, and they figure it out. Well, unfortunately, Adobe, they saw part of the problem, but it wasn't the full problem. So now, 2 patches later, and a whole bunch of guidance as far as how to fix this, maybe kind of it's fixed, and maybe it's not. I don't know. So this is a journey, and this is where it's really important to have a partner like SwiftOtter, if I may say, on your team to help you navigate as it's kind of you might say murky waters, a really highly technical team that's on top of this, knowing exactly what's going on and making sure to get websites patched up and fixed as quickly as possible. A great example of this is this latest issue where, or version of this whole scenario is the encryption key needs to be changed. Well, Adobe says just go and change it. Fantastic. Let's go change it. Well, by doing so, if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, a developer has to do it in the first place, but you can literally break a whole bunch of areas of the system. It's not just a click and you're done, unfortunately. So keep that in mind. Now, it's easy to throw stones at Adobe because they're open source and, that's just kind of what it is. But they're not the only ones that we're going to talk about today. Shopify. Now, Shopify itself was not hacked. I want to make that very, very clear. However, it's a third-party app in the system was hacked, which is very important to remember that this is not just a tiny app. And so, of course, from an expense perspective, fewer apps the better, but even from a security perspective, it's about that digital footprint. The smaller it can be, the less opportunity for hacking. And and it's not even saying this was a smaller app developer. I mean, this was a fairly good-sized app developer. You think that they'd have their stuff together, but nobody is immune to hacks. So Shopify was attacked. An app on Shopify was attacked. And by extension of that, Shopify had to very quickly distance themselves from this just because, it was unfortunate. Now, CrowdStrike is the next one we're going to talk about. This is a big deal. I might say, the privilege of experiencing this myself. My experience was about 1% compared to what many other people had to experience, but it was humorous, even though it kind of wasn't. I'll just share this part of the story real quick. I had to spend the night at a hotel because my connection was delayed and thus missed. And so I was there checking in. The person behind the front counter was very kind, gracious, having trouble looking at my reservation, I think because of CrowdStrike. I only put it together like the next day as far as what actually I think happened. And he proceeded to pull out a keycard envelope and wrote the room number 518 or whatever it was on there and handed me the envelope. I was like, should I have a key? I was very polite about it. I was super tired at that point. And he's like, nope, no keys tonight. The whole thing's broken. Then he picks up his radio, says, Jose, room 518. He said, just go over to the elevator and go up to the 5th floor and Jose will let you in. I was like, okay. I literally walk up and Jose showed up like 30 seconds later, super fast. Used his master key, let me in the door, and I was off to a good night's sleep. Well, it wasn't great. It was a short night's sleep. That's a tiny little view of the impact that this had. It's called the largest IT outage in history. Like it's crazy what happened, and all of it appears to be a result of a software developer missing one small thing, and somehow that miss ended up going through all their checks and balances, or maybe it skipped it somehow. It's all possible until it finally got and literally crippled the entire industry. So that's the security stuff. Now, that wasn't a security breach, but it was a big deal. Now, on a more positive note, Prime Day hauled in $14.2 billion for merchants. Now, this wasn't just Amazon. This was other merchants as well, confirmed by Adobe Analytics. But this is a big deal. $14.2 billion is the most ever. Yeah, they've been having it for quite a few years, holding it for quite a few years now. But what we're seeing is merchants getting on this bandwagon and offering actually really decent discounts. What used to be the case for Black Friday, no longer the case for Black Friday, but people are getting excited about it and seeing these deals and thus spending money on Prime Day. Big deal. Now, continuing on, I love to see stories of when companies invest in e-commerce and they succeed as a result of it. Optimizations almost always pay off. Levi's Jeans invested in some optimizations and better page speeds, better search, and better navigation across the website, and it resulted in a 19% increase in e-commerce revenue. It works, folks. Optimization works. Now, you have to be with a partner, work with a partner that understands optimization and understanding how to get customers to their destination, of course. But at the end of the day, optimization works. So that's always cool to see. I enjoy seeing even quick case studies like that. Speaking of which, let's talk about this optimization related to Black Friday, the holidays. But it's not just limited to Black Friday and the holidays. In fact, what brought this up for me was last Thursday, I was sitting in my hotel room after Retail Summit, and I was needing to buy a rain jacket, right? Waterproof rain jacket. And I needed it by this Tuesday. So, well, because of that, dates do matter. And it got me thinking, on a majority of the websites I am looking at, there is not much information as far as the date that a product will arrive. Many will say, as far as the shipping, 4 to 6 business days, or 2 business days, or 1 business day for overnight. But there's still a lot of questions that are in my mind as far as, okay, if it's 2 business days, it will arrive by Tuesday. That's all I want to know. Will it arrive by Tuesday? And guess what? Right here, check this out. Amazon answers that question for me. So me, as somebody who is fine to buck the system, Amazon is not always what I like to go to. I like to support smaller merchants, and that's not necessarily an uncommon phenomena. So in this case, Amazon said Friday, July 26th. I think I pulled this from today. So it would have been a few days ago, and I think it would have arrived by Tuesday, which would have worked just fine. So this would have been an option. Now, when we look at us, the brands that we support, what is the answer that customers would give when they are talking about our products? Do we tell them 1 to 2 business days, 2 to 4 business days? What does that mean? Now, there is a cool feature in ShipperHQ, if I can call them out here, that offers this. Now, I'll be really blunt. I like to give both sides of the coin here. This is not the prettiest way to present this information, but it works. I'm always pushing for function over form. Presenting it like this is fine. It works. But functionality over the format of this is 100% more valuable. So in this case, ShipperHQ is powering this delivery estimates. Now in ShipperHQ, you can pad the information out, be able to get it reasonably accurate. It's a matter of literally some customization once you're on ShipperHQ and just flipping a switch. It's like, why not? Now, if we want to go to a next level of this, we can talk about eGrandstand, another one of our clients here, where they use in the shopping cart estimated shipping date. And that is because the products are customized and they are fairly, there's a lot of processes that go involved. It's very complicated. Plus, when we get into the shopping cart, as they try to bundle shipments together, there could be a different ship date for those. And so they just have to try to manage those and try to get those into one ship date if possible. So Grandstand has opted for the shopping cart. The other option, and I think depending on the factors that are available, in an ideal world, this is ideal, but it's not always going to be possible given the constraints, is a situation like this. So here we have a geo IP located zip code. What is that? Well, when we go to a website, we have our IP address, and that IP address is actually coded to roughly a specific address, for sure a zip code. That IP address is passed to a tool like CloudFlare, which is the one I typically recommend to get this information. CloudFlare can do this IP lookup and then pull up for sure the country and even down to, again, a rough zip code for who is browsing this website. Can you imagine that? Being able to go and get the zip code roughly for your customers, which will then facilitate giving them, again, reasonably accurate shipping information. It's probably not going to be out of the radius of 100 miles, roughly. So right here, I see on this solar panel page, how do I get it? So I can either drive 538 miles for BOPIS, pick up in store, or I can have this delivered and I will see this product arrive on my doorstep between July 29th and August 1st. And all of that is predicated based off of this zip code and the factors we are going to talk about here in just a minute. I think this is pretty awesome. Again, there's differing levels, differing requirements that affect the levels that we can actually display here. But this is incredible. I love seeing functionality like this. I think there was one other website that I found that had this, but it's rare. It is really, really rare to see this on the PDP. So this is one way to get a leg up on your competition. Answer those questions before your customer service people even have to touch the reply button on responding to emails of when is this product going to arrive. Now, in wrapping this up, a big question in your mind is probably, how do I understand what goes into getting this detail to my customers? That is critical. Now, there are these factors, and there might be a couple more for you, or at least there will be nuance. And to be honest, I would be more than happy to talk this through with you to understand your situation and provide some guidance here. We have definitely helped some of our clients work through this process. But these are the four big ones here. Number one is stock status. Is the product in stock or not? And if the product is not in stock, when will it be back in stock? That is very important. So, for example, if a customer sees that a in-stock product is going to ship on August 5th and a out-of-stock product is going to ship on September 14th, it now puts them at an apples-to-apples comparison, so they can say, is this September 14th product that much better? Can I or should I wait for it? If there is no estimated delivery date or estimated arrival date to your warehouse for this product, that's a little bit different of a challenge. But generally speaking, there's always going to be some guess that you can even put on that. Second, what is the time to take and pick and ship this? This is going to be a variable considering what time of the year you're in. If you're in your busy season, of course, this is probably going to be pushed out. If you're in a slow time, we can pull it back in. This is the easiest one of all. Customization time. This is going to be one of the more difficult. Like I mentioned for a grandstand, there is a huge amount that goes into this calculation. The presses and the print methods and how busy they are. A lot that goes into it. And if you're doing engraving or embroidering or printing or whatever, there's probably going to be a lot of this that needs to be figured in for you, which is going to be the most complicated part of this whole process. But finally, we have the shipment time in transit. How long will it take to get from your doorstep to the customer? We need to know the customer's rough zip code. So that's where that geo IP lookup comes in. But if you look at this, it's really not a huge deal to implement this. And this can represent a massive improvement, a massive lift in customers perceiving your brand, especially when comparing with Amazon. Now, are we going to be able to do free same-day, almost free same-day shipping? Probably not. But are we going to be able to provide customers with a very realistic estimate of when their product is going to arrive and how much it's going to cost to get this there? Yes, we can do that. And from my observation, my research and experience, customers really care about, I would say 4 times out of 5, knowing when their product is going to arrive versus knowing it's going to arrive today. Biggest thing is knowing when this product is going to arrive. So there's your tidbit for the week. I'll be back here in a couple of weeks with another one for you.